In a vast chamber of the Galactic Council, alien leaders gathered from many planets. The room was large, with high ceilings and walls that glimmered with strange lights. A long table stood in the center where the council members sat, each representing their own species. They looked serious, their eyes filled with concern. At the head of the table sat the ambassador of a powerful alien race known as the Zarkans. He was tall and imposing, with shimmering green skin and sharp features. His name was Ambassador Jorak. He had a reputation for being clever and ruthless, and today he seemed ready to make a bold statement. "Honored members of the council," Jorak began, his voice deep and commanding. "I bring grave news. The humans of Earth are a threat to our peace. They are primitive and unorganized, but we cannot underestimate them. If we do not act now, they may grow stronger and challenge us." Murmurs filled the room as the other members exchanged glances. Some looked doubtful, while others seemed intrigued. An alien with 6 arms and bright blue skin raised a hand. "But Ambassador Jorak, are we not aware that humans are weak? They have not even reached the stars yet." Jorak's eyes narrowed. "That is where you are wrong. Humans may seem weak, but they are clever and resourceful. They have survived many challenges, and they adapt quickly. I propose we strike first. A preemptive attack will crush their spirit and prevent them from ever becoming a true threat." A council member from a race of floating jelly-like creatures spoke up. "But what if they surprise us? Their technology may not be advanced, but they possess something we do not fully understand. Determination." Jorak waved his hand dismissively. "We have the strength of our fleets and superior technology. Fear will keep them in check. If we show them our might, they will submit. The humans are nothing compared to us." Another member, a stout alien with thick, rocky skin, leaned forward. "I have heard stories of human bravery in battle. There are legends of their unexpected victories. Are we truly willing to risk war against a species known for its fighting spirit?" Jorak's patience wore thin. "You all fear what you do not understand. I have studied humans for years. They are divided and weak. We can crush them easily if we act now. Our fleets are ready and we will take them by surprise." The council members looked uneasy. They respected Jorak for his experience, but the thought of underestimating the humans worried many of them. An elderly alien with a long, flowing beard raised his voice. "Perhaps we should consider a diplomatic approach. Talking might lead to understanding. War brings only suffering." Jorak shook his head. "Diplomacy is a waste of time. The humans will never listen to us. They see us as invaders. We must act decisively, or we risk losing our power. Think of our future. A swift strike will ensure our dominance in the galaxy." After a long silence, the council members began to nod. They knew Jorak had a point, but the fear of an unknown enemy lingered in their minds. A young council member with bright purple skin finally spoke up. "But what if we fail? What if we face a stronger resistance than we expect?" Jorak leaned forward, his eyes shining with confidence. "That is why we need to act now. We will launch our fleets and take them by surprise. Once we show them our strength, they will bend to our will." Slowly, the atmosphere in the room changed. The council members began to murmur in agreement. Jorak's boldness was infectious, and despite their fears, they felt a sense of excitement building. The thought of conquering Earth filled them with a rush of power. As the meeting continued, the fate of humanity hung in the balance. The ambassador had stirred something deep within the council, and their decision would soon be made. War was looming on the horizon, and only time would reveal what lay ahead for the humans of Earth. On Earth, a tense atmosphere filled the command center of the United Nations. Military leaders, scientists, and diplomats gathered in a large room, their faces showing concern. The walls were covered with maps and screens displaying information about the alien threat. The mood was serious. Everyone knew they faced a powerful enemy. At the head of the table stood General Marcus Reynolds, a seasoned soldier with years of experience in combat. His gray hair and weathered face showed he had seen many battles. He looked around the room, sensing the worry in the air. "Listen up, everyone," he began, his voice steady and strong. "We have a problem. The Galactic Council is planning to attack us. We cannot take this lightly. We need a plan, and we need it fast." The room fell silent as everyone absorbed his words. A young scientist, Dr. Lisa Chen, raised her hand. "General, do we have any idea what kind of technology they possess? We know they are advanced, but how advanced?" General Reynolds nodded. "We have some intel, but it's limited. They have powerful ships and weapons, but they underestimate us. Humans have always found a way to survive against great odds. Another military leader, Colonel Jackson, leaned forward. General, we must prepare our defenses. We need to strengthen our military presence and ensure every soldier is ready for combat. But how do we fight an enemy that thinks we are weak? By showing them they are wrong, General Reynolds replied. We have faced challenges before. Remember the stories of our victories? We will use our creativity and teamwork to surprise them. Humans have an incredible spirit. We will not go down without a fight. The room buzzed with energy as the leaders began to discuss strategies. Dr. Chen suggested using technology to their advantage. We have been developing new weapons that can counter their ships. If we can combine our military might with our technological advancements, we stand a chance. The general nodded, impressed with her idea. Exactly. We must also gather our best scientists and engineers to work together. We need to make sure our troops are equipped and ready for anything. We can't let fear hold us back. As plans were made, General Reynolds felt a surge of determination. He remembered the stories of humanity's past. They had survived wars, disasters, and challenges that seemed impossible. This was another fight, and he believed they would prevail. Days passed, and the command center became a hive of activity. Soldiers trained hard, preparing for battle. Dr. Chen and her team worked around the clock, developing new technologies to defend Earth. The atmosphere was electric. Everyone knew they were on the brink of a fight for their survival. In the middle of the preparations, General Reynolds gathered his troops for a briefing. The room was filled with soldiers, each one focused and ready to listen. I know many of you feel scared, he began, but we must channel that fear into strength. We are humans and we have faced adversity before. We will fight for our families, our homes, and our planet. The soldiers cheered, their voices echoing in the room. General Reynolds could see their determination. It inspired him. We are going to show these aliens that we are not the weaklings they think we are. We are going to unite and fight back with everything we have. As the preparations continued, whispers of hope spread among the soldiers. They began to share stories of human resilience and bravery. Many recalled tales of past battles where humanity had triumphed against all odds. This shared history ignited a fire in their hearts. Dr. Chen stood in her lab, surrounded by her team. We are going to make history, she declared. These aliens think they can bully us, but they have no idea what we are capable of. We will surprise them. Her words resonated with the team, fueling their desire to succeed. They worked tirelessly, creating powerful devices that would enhance their defenses and give humanity an edge in the upcoming battle. As the days turned into weeks, General Reynolds and his team remained focused. They knew the alien fleet was approaching, but they also knew they had prepared well. The spirit of humanity was strong, and their resolve to fight back grew with every passing moment. With determination burning in their hearts, the humans awaited the inevitable conflict. They were ready to show the galaxy that they were not to be underestimated. War was coming, but they would stand together, united in their fight for survival. The day had finally come. As dawn broke over Earth, the atmosphere was thick with tension and anticipation. Across the globe, military bases were on high alert. Soldiers were in their positions, ready for the impending alien attack. General Marcus Reynolds stood in the command center, watching the screens that displayed the alien fleet approaching Earth. Alert all units, he commanded, his voice steady. The Zarkan fleet is entering our atmosphere. We must be ready for anything. His heart raced, but he knew they had prepared well. The soldiers, scientists, and engineers had worked hard, and now it was time to put their plans into action. On the front lines, fighter pilots prepared their ships. Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell, a skilled pilot with nerves of steel, adjusted her helmet and checked her controls. This is it, team, she said, looking around at her fellow pilots. We've trained for this moment. Remember our mission. Protect our planet and show them that we are not afraid. Her team nodded, determination shining in their eyes. They were ready to defend their home. As the alien ships descended from the clouds, a hush fell over the command center. The screens flickered with images of the sleek Zarkon vessels, their dark hulls glinting in the sunlight. Suddenly, alarms blared and red lights flashed. The invasion had begun. Engage the defensive systems, General Reynolds shouted. The room erupted into action as soldiers scrambled to their stations. Launch the fighter jets! We need to intercept them before they reach the ground. Outside, the fighter jets soared into the sky, their engines roaring. Lieutenant Mitchell led the charge, her heart pounding with adrenaline. She communicated with her team through the radio. Stay sharp. Keep formation and follow my lead. The first wave of alien ships approached, firing bright beams of energy at the ground below. Explosions rocked the military bases, sending debris flying. The humans fought back, firing their own missiles at the incoming vessels. The sky lit up with flashes of light as the two forces clashed. "Watch your six!" Mitchell shouted as an alien ship swooped in behind her. She skillfully maneuvered her jet, dodging the blasts while returning fire. One by one, the alien ships began to fall from the sky, but there were too many of them. Back in the command center, General Reynolds monitored the battle closely. He could see the fighters engaging the alien fleet, but it was clear that the Zarkans were not backing down. "We need to deploy our ground troops," he ordered. "They're trying to land and establish a base." As the command was given, soldiers on the ground prepared for combat. They set up defensive positions, ready to engage the alien forces as they touched down. The ground shook as the first Zarkan ships landed, releasing troops clad in sleek armor. They advanced quickly, their weapons at the ready. The humans fired their rifles, and the air filled with the sounds of gunfire and explosions. Colonel Jackson led the ground troops, shouting orders and encouraging his men. "Stay together! Focus on their weak points!" In the chaos, a group of alien soldiers rushed toward the human lines. They were fast and agile, moving with precision. But the humans fought back with bravery, using everything they had. Grenades exploded, and the ground was littered with debris. Lieutenant Mitchell continued to engage the alien ships from the air. She could see her fellow soldiers fighting fiercely below. "We have to hold them off," she cried into the radio. "We can't let them take our land." As the battle raged on, General Reynolds felt a surge of pride. His soldiers were showing incredible strength and resilience. They were fighting for their families, their homes, and their future. They refused to be conquered. Just when it seemed the humans were gaining the upper hand, the Zarkans deployed a powerful weapon, a massive ship that hovered above the battlefield, raining energy blasts down upon the humans. It was unlike anything they had seen before. "Fall back! Fall back!" General Reynolds shouted, realizing the new threat. The human forces began to retreat, regrouping in a safer position. But their determination was not broken. They knew they had to find a way to defeat this formidable enemy. The battle was far from over. The skies were filled with smoke, and the ground was scorched from the fighting. Both sides were battered and weary, but neither would give in. Humanity was showing its true spirit, ready to fight for survival against an enemy that had underestimated them. As the day wore on, the sounds of war echoed across the landscape. The battle had just begun, and the outcome was still uncertain. But one thing was clear. The humans were not going to back down without a fight. They would stand united against the alien threat and prove that they were a force to be reckoned with. As the battle continued, the air crackled with tension. The once clear blue sky was now filled with smoke and debris. The humans had fought bravely, but they were beginning to feel the weight of the ongoing conflict. General Marcus Reynolds stood in the command center, his mind racing with thoughts of how to turn the tide in their favor. "General," Colonel Jackson reported, looking worried, "we've lost several ground units, and the Zarkan forces are regrouping. They seem to be planning a larger attack." General Reynolds took a deep breath, trying to focus. He could see the worry in his men's eyes, but they needed hope. "We can't let fear stop us," he said firmly. "We need to come up with a new strategy, something unexpected." At that moment, a message crackled over the radio. It was Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell. "General, we need to do something bold. The Zarkans think they have us figured out. We have to show them we're not just defending, we're attacking." Reynolds thought for a moment. Sarah was right. The Zarkans had grown overconfident. Perhaps a surprise move could shake their confidence. "What do you have in mind, Mitchell?" "I propose we launch a counteroffensive from the north while the Zarkans are focused on our main line. If we can hit their supply ships and disrupt their reinforcements, it could turn the tide." The general considered the plan. It was risky, but it might just work. "I like it, but we'll need to move quickly and quietly. We can't let them see us coming." With a nod from Reynolds, the command center sprang into action. The troops began to prepare for the daring maneuver. General Reynolds gathered his officers to discuss the details. "We will split our forces. A small group will create a diversion at the main front, while the rest of us launch the attack from the north." Colonel Jackson raised an eyebrow. "What about the Zarkan commander? He's likely expecting us to play defensively." "If we fail?" Reynolds interrupted. "If we fail to act, we will lose everything. The time for caution is over. We must show them we are not afraid to take risks. This is our chance to strike back. As the plans were set in motion, Lieutenant Mitchell and her squadron of fighter jets prepared for takeoff. She felt a mix of excitement and fear. This plan could either lead to victory or disaster. Remember, everyone, stay sharp and follow my lead. We're not just fighting for ourselves, we're fighting for everyone back home. With their hearts pounding, the pilots took to the skies once again. The ground troops created a diversion, launching a barrage of firepower to draw the Zarkon's attention. As the alien forces focused on the main front, Mitchell's team moved silently toward the northern flank. The alien ships remained unaware of the humans' approach. They had grown too confident, and it was time to take advantage of that. Mitchell flew in formation with her team, her eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of the supply ships. "Stay low and keep your distance," she instructed. "We want to catch them by surprise." As they approached the Zarkan supply lines, they spotted several ships loaded with weapons and resources. Mitchell's heart raced. "There they are! Get ready!" The squadron dove in, firing their missiles at the supply ships. The explosions rocked the area, sending shockwaves through the Zarkan fleet. The element of surprise was on their side, and the alien soldiers were thrown into chaos. "Target the engines!" Mitchell shouted. "We need to cripple their ability to regroup." Her team followed her lead, their shots finding their mark. The Zarkan scrambled to respond, but it was too late. The humans had gained the upper hand, and for the first time in the battle, they felt a glimmer of hope. Back in the command center, General Reynolds watched the action unfold on the screens. The Zarkans were struggling to regain control. "Yes! They didn't see it coming!" he exclaimed, his voice filled with excitement. "This is our moment!" But just as the humans began to celebrate their success, a dark shadow loomed over the battlefield. The massive Zarkan flagship, which had been hovering in the distance, moved into position. Its weapons powered up, and Reynolds realized the danger. "Everyone, prepare for an incoming attack! We can't let up now!" The flagship fired its powerful energy beams at the human forces, but the soldiers on the ground remained focused. They knew this was their chance to prove themselves. "We will not be defeated!" Colonel Jackson yelled, rallying his troops. "Push forward!" The battle intensified, and both sides fought fiercely. The humans were filled with determination, fighting not just for survival, but for their very existence. In this moment of chaos and uncertainty, they united, ready to face whatever the Zarkan forces threw at them. The risk had been taken, and now the outcome of the battle hung in the balance. Would the humans prevail, or would the Zarkans crush their hopes? Only time would tell. But one thing was clear, the humans were not going down without a fight. They had proven they could strike back and make their mark in this intergalactic conflict. The battle raged on, the air thick with smoke and the sounds of war. General Marcus Reynolds stood in the command center, heart pounding as he watched the chaos unfold on the screens. The humans had struck the Zarkan supply lines, but the fight was far from over. The massive flagship loomed ominously in the sky, and the aliens were regrouping. "General, we have reports of heavy resistance near the northern flank," Colonel Jackson said urgently. "The Zarkans are trying to push back against our attack." Reynolds clenched his fists, determination flooding his veins. "We must not let them regain their strength. If we can take down that flagship, we might have a chance to turn the tide of this battle. We need a coordinated strike!" Meanwhile, in the skies above, Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell and her squadron continued their assault. They had taken out several supply ships, but the Zarkan flagship was now targeting them. "Watch out!" Mitchell shouted as beams of energy shot past her jet. "Stay together! We need to take that thing down!" The pilots maneuvered through the air, dodging blasts and returning fire. Mitchell felt the adrenaline surging as she pushed her jet to the limits. "Let's target its weapon systems! If we can disable them, we can create an opening for the ground forces." Her team followed her lead, focusing their fire on the flagship. Explosions rocked the air as missiles struck their target. But the flagship's defenses were strong, and it wasn't going down easily. The Zarkans retaliated, their beams lighting up the sky as they fought back. On the ground, Colonel Jackson rallied his troops. "We need to keep the pressure on! Move forward and don't let up! If we can distract them long enough, we can buy our pilots time to take down that flagship." The soldiers charged into battle, their hearts fueled by hope. They knew they were fighting for their families and their planet. As they pushed against the Zarkan forces, their determination grew stronger. "For Earth!" shouted one soldier, leading the charge. As the ground troops engaged the Zarkans, General Reynolds had a plan. "We need to coordinate our efforts," he instructed his team. "Let's send in the tanks to create a diversion. That should draw the flagship's attention away from our fighters." The ground troops set up their tanks and prepared for the assault. "Move out!" Colonel Jackson commanded, and the tanks rolled forward, their cannons firing at the Zarkan troops. The ground shook as the tanks advanced, causing confusion among the aliens. Meanwhile, Mitchell and her squadron saw the opening they needed. "Now's our chance!" she yelled. "Let's take it down!" With renewed energy, the pilots swooped in, targeting the flagship's main weapon systems. They fired their missiles with precision, watching as the projectiles struck true. The flagship shuddered, and for the first time it showed signs of vulnerability. "We're making progress! Keep firing!" Mitchell shouted, her heart racing with excitement. She felt the tide beginning to turn, but they needed to finish the job. Back on the ground, the soldiers fought fiercely. The tanks provided crucial support, creating a shield for the infantry as they pressed forward. "Push! We can't let them regroup!" Jackson yelled, urging his troops to move with urgency. They fought with everything they had, refusing to back down. In the air, the situation was reaching a boiling point. The flagship, now taking heavy damage, tried to retaliate. "Incoming fire!" one of Mitchell's teammates shouted. They dove and swerved, narrowly avoiding the powerful beams that shot from the flagship. "Let's make one last push," Mitchell called, her voice filled with determination. "We can do this! Focus fire on that flagship! It's now or never!" With a united cry, the squadron launched their final assault. Missiles flew through the air, striking the flagship with incredible force. The ship shuddered violently, smoke pouring from its damaged hull. The Zarkons, realizing they were losing control, began to retreat. "Yes! We're breaking through!" Mitchell cheered, her heart soaring. The flagship swayed dangerously, its lights flickering as it struggled to stay airborne. The human pilots pressed on, determined to finish what they started. Back on the ground, the human soldiers felt a surge of hope. They could see the Zarkans faltering, their once powerful presence weakening. "Keep pushing! We can do this!" Colonel Jackson shouted, rallying his troops. They charged forward with renewed vigor, the cries of victory echoing in their hearts. Finally, with one last volley of missiles, the flagship erupted in a spectacular explosion, sending debris flying across the sky. Cheers erupted from both the ground and the air as the humans witnessed their hard-fought victory. General Reynolds couldn't believe his eyes. "We did it!" he exclaimed, pride swelling in his chest. The humans had struck back, showing the Zarkans they were not to be underestimated. The battle was far from over, but they had proven their strength and resilience. As the remnants of the Zarkon forces began to retreat, a sense of unity washed over the human soldiers. They had faced an overwhelming enemy and emerged victorious. This was just the beginning, and they were ready to fight for their future side by side as one unstoppable force.